Wodan at Europa Park in Rust, Germany is an insane GCI wooden coaster with huge drops, fast airtime hills and quick transitions. Standing at 131 feet tall, is one of the taller GCI woodies and also one of the fastest too at 62 miles per hour. Located in the Scandinavian area of the park, this ride is very well themed, while also being that top thrill-seeking ride. So this is my review of Wodan.
My camera can hold the limit!
That was incredible!
Oh my god, my camera's going!
Absolutely unmatchable speed, unmatchable pacing. There's no mid-course break, it doesn't stop.
That might be my favourite wooden coaster I've ever done.
First drop was incredible in the back row.
So like any ride, we start at the entrance, unless you're just one of those guys that just fade through walls. The entrance to the ride is very grand, with you passing under these Nordic gods. The whole theme of Wodan is Nordic gods, as you're going to see in the queue of the ride especially. Once you pass under that, you enter a Nordic village with all the wooden buildings around. I wonder why that is. And then the actual entrance to the ride is off to the left. But everyone thinks that massive structure at the start is the entrance, which technically it is, but technically it's not. So is Wodan's entrance top tier or just mid? Very important questions we ask ourselves. Or you could just use the virtual queue, which is nearer to the exit, but then you miss out on the whole queue experience. The queue for Wodan has 4 different Nordic god realms: Niflheimer, Helheim, Muspelheim, and Hormundgrund.
What?
And there's even a toilet. The queue keeps changing from indoor to outdoor, mainly going around the back of the ride and under the lift. The inside sections are really well themed with loads of statues and even a pre-show near the end, which I completely understand. The outside queue wasn't themed as much, but there is a few fire effects. For me, going through the queue can be a pain over and over again if you're going for re-rides, as it's not as fast dispatches as some of the rides at Europa Park, such as Voltron or Euromir. It's not like Voltron's queue, how there's so much to see in the queue which could be different every time. Although the different caves which have the realms in do have some very cool lighting which can look great at night. You get up to the station and there is a front row queue if you want to do the front. Wouldn't recommend it though, as this is a purely back row ride. Wodan has a well themed station, not as themed as a ride like Gotham City Escape or Tutatis, but still very well themed. Wodan has 12 rows, with me being magnetised to row 12 every time, but the further back on the train you are, the better, because you get whipped through all these elements and the airtime is substantially emphasised. The trains are really comfortable, pretty much the exact same to the Wickerman at Alton Towers, and yes, you can do that trick where you get the restraint as loose as possible to maximise airtime, and it really makes a difference on this ride. So you dispatch and go through the first few turns before the lift, you bank inwards and outwards. It doesn't do much, but it's something different to start the ride. You ascend the 131 foot lift hill and pass these 2 wolves, I'm guessing, which at night start to spit fire, which is a really cool effect. You do a 270-degree turn and down this amazing first drop. Especially in the back, you get thrown out of your seat. On the front it's still great, just not as good as the back. So assume that logic for every element I talk about. Front good element, back world class. So back to the drop, you just get thrown out of your seat while plummeting to the ground, gaining loads of speed. And at night, this drop is insane. It feels like you're going 100 miles per hour, not 62. The first drop can also give a cool view if you're looking at it further back off-ride, as it passes under the lift and the Wodan sign. You drop into a tunnel and come back up into an airtime hill. You kind of bank to the right and then the left and then back to the right again, which can give some good whippiness. You get decent airtime on this hill, but not as insane as some other hills later on. A highlight to the ride for me is this next drop. You'll bank to the right as you start to descend to the ground, and suddenly it goes from a shallow descent to a really steep one. So you get lifted out of your seat while banked, and you gave even more speed than you already have, and if it couldn't get any better, you go through another tunnel at the bottom, so you're accelerating towards this little gap which could easily take you out, and then if the tunnels weren't enough, you fly through the station. It may take you 2 or 3 rides to even realise you're going through the station, you're going that fast. It's something really cool to see as you're about to board the train when you're standing in the station. An airtime hill brings you out of the station, and then you go into another highlight for me. If you don't have enough speed already, you drop down all the way to the ground where you bank to the left and to the right and going through some more airtime hills. It feels so out of control you wouldn't believe. Like, this was my reaction to it on my first ride.
My camera can hold the limits!
Which was at the start of the day, by the way, and the limits were high, incredibly high. At night, the train flies through this drop like it's got a flight to catch. Specifically, this airtime hill gives some of the best airtime on the ride. Going at high speeds, you get launched up and then jolted down while turning to the other direction, so you get so many forces at the same time. You turn around another airtime hill and into another tunnel. From then it's just constant airtime hills, which again all give great airtime, and then into the brakes. Jaw drop in disbelief. Some people say that the ride can be a little short, which I can see. When you're packing so many elements into the ride, it doesn't even matter. This ride is packed with airtime, speed, and whippiness. Pacing on this thing as well doesn't let up. It flies through the entire layout. I find it really cool how Wodan interacts with some other rides in the area, like Blue Fire and Atlantica Super Splash, going under and over the rides. Also, the soundtrack for Wodan is really dramatic, but it doesn't compare to the AI soundtrack we made. Like, this is an absolute jam. And this ride isn't even the best coaster at this park. In my Voltron review, I said this: if you think Wodan is better, you honestly need to get a life, because it is nowhere near. And while that may have been a bit extreme, I do find Voltron to be that better ride. But that doesn't stop me from rating Wodan a 10 out of 10. This ride is just incredible, and at most parks it would be the best coaster there. You need to go out to Europa Park and ride Wodan, along with seeing the incredible park that Europa is. What do you think of Wodan? Make sure to let me know down in the comments below, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.